Believe in yourself, 'cause it starts with you, and then everyone else will believe you too. And if it looks like you're the only believer around, just keep on believing, don't put yourself down, just believe.
Our guest this week grew up in Wakarusa, Indiana, earned a bachelor's degree in organizational management from Bethel University. From 2004 to 2009, he was vice president of leadership and cultural development for Patrick Industries. Since 2009, he's been the founder of Cardia Transformational Group, LLC. He's the author of Lead, for God's Sake. And his ministry is to help others discover their purpose in leadership and in life. His name, Todd Gongwer, and we're honored to have him as our guest. And I'm Jack Krasula, and this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR. I'm Jack Krasula. This is Anything is Possible. We're talking to Todd Gongwer, the author of Lead, for God's Sake. Todd, welcome and honored to have you.
Well, thank you very much, Jack, and I am honored to be here, my friend.
Taking us a long time, but we're finally going to make this happen. So,
Yes.
can you lead us in an opening prayer, please?
I sure can. Heavenly Father, we just, first and foremost, we thank you for all the blessings you've given us. We thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy in our lives. We pray that you would bless our time together, bless Jack, and the conversation that we're going to have. May it be honoring and glorifying to you. We ask these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, let's go back. Wakarusa, Indiana, your childhood, your mom and your dad, please.
Yeah, so mom and dad, I mean, it's great because I'm so thankful they're both still alive and well. My dad is actually 87, and he just got home yesterday driving his boat all the way back from Florida. And so that, I think that's pretty good at his age, being able to do that. And he does it faster than we all think he should, by the way. And then my mom, and so both of them, I tell people all the time, they're both two of my very best friends to this day. My dad grew up, he went to the was in the military, was a manager for a machine shop, and then eventually started full-time with my grandfather, who started a company when he was 54, and started full-time into that business and kind of built this family-owned business in this area. So he was kind of an entrepreneur, businessman that built and ran that company throughout my entire growing up phases. And then my mom stayed at home and ran the house, and 4 boys, lots of craziness, as you can probably imagine. And I was for her to do, it was actually 4 boys within, I think we're within less than 6 years apart. I think it's 5.5 years apart. My younger brother's only 50 weeks younger than me. So it was quite an adventure at home most of the time when my dad was working a lot of long hours building the company. And so thankful for both of them. My dad is a very driven, high expectations leader, and love him to death. Never questioned his love, but he was definitely pushed us, and which I'm thankful for now. And then my mom is the almost opposite side of that. Never met anybody she doesn't dearly love. The most empathetic, kind-hearted, loving person you've ever met. So I feel extremely blessed to have been a balance of upbringing from both of those, where I learned just so much from them in that journey of while I was still at home with them.
We're talking to Todd Gongwer. Todd, you played basketball, and then you got into coaching. And from 1991 to 2004, you were an assistant coach at Bethel University. You won back-to-back NAI National Championships, 96, 97, 98. Talk about that chapter of your life.
Yeah, so it was, I had always wanted to, I wanted to be a coach since I was probably 13, 14 years old, and loved basketball, loved all sports actually, but knew that I probably had a better chance of making a career as a coach as opposed to being a player. So I played as long as I could, but was able to jump in actually Bethel, which is close to us, here in near South Bend. Jumped in as an assistant coach there in 1991, and just was very, very fortunate to learn so much from our head coach, who ended up being a Hall of Famer, and just being an assistant there, being a part of, 1995 his first national championship, 90, and then we wanted to get a 97 and 98, and just we had a 5-year total run where we actually lost the national championship game by a last-second shot in one of those years. So we had a 5-year span where we were the most dominant basketball team at any level in terms of our record in the country, and it was just an amazing experience. Learned so much about leadership and team dynamics, and I was at the same time I was involved in entrepreneurial stuff, working for the family business and kind of building my own kind of franchise restaurant system at the same time as I was that assistant coach for that basketball team. And the business parallels of between sports and business, and in terms of leadership and culture and all the different dynamics that you are faced with as a leader in those scenarios, just really had a significant impact on my perspective. Those championships. I was there for 12 seasons. Those championship seasons were obviously special, but really every season has its own uniqueness to it, and it's about the relationships more than anything else, and not only with the coaches but the kids that go through there too. You have such an opportunity to impact kids through that coaching. So those days were tremendously had a tremendously powerful shaping years in my life. Running in both business and sports world at the same time.
We're talking to Todd Gongwer. When we come back, we're going to ask him about young men today. And I'm Jack Krasula, and this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR. This is Anything is Possible, and I'm host Jack Krasula with Todd Gongwer. If you want to learn more, www.leadforgodsake.com. Leadforgodsake.com. Todd, what's the biggest thing our young people need today?
Wow, that's a great question, Jack. There's so many things that come to my mind. I believe the first and most important thing, obviously, for anyone, including especially young people, is a foundation of faith. And I say that because I believe now more than ever, especially with social media and just the kind of the way we are wiring this next generation, there's so much out there that they're consuming that is, it's not real. It's not foundational. It's not full truths. We have a ton of half lies out there, but never the full truth, which my mom always taught me. No such thing as a half lie. Half lies, no such thing. No such thing as a half lie. A half lie is a full lie. I think kids are looking for what's real, and they're really trying to find that, and it's just not a lot out there. And for me, and when I go back at my journey, and even the young people that I've dealt with my whole life in different settings, there's a desire in all of us to find our purpose, to understand why we're here on this earth, and to do something to make a difference with that purpose. And there's a lot of elements to the purpose, and we can talk about that a little later maybe, but ultimately it always goes back to foundationally understanding why you're here on this earth, and it begins with relationships. God put us here for a reason, and we are relationship beings for sure, and social beings, and so I think that's missing in so many of the messages that are out there. It's always about, hey, look out for number one, and you do you, and promote myself, and all these other things. Whereas, the messages that flow from that foundation of faith, is quite the opposite of that. Where it's, man, life, real fulfillment is in serving others, and it's in helping others, and your purpose. You'll never really, you'll never really be walking in a full peace in your purpose until you understand that. You understand how important the relationships around you are, and those things that, like I said, social media has just put us in a position where we're building a lot of relationships that are not real.
We're talking to Todd Gongwer. Speaking of young people, you and your wife Tracy, Todd, have been raising 3, Caden, Kira, and you adopted Watson as I think a 3-year-old from Haiti in 2014. What's the biggest thing Watson has taught your entire family?
Oh my goodness. The first thing that comes to my mind, Jack, is adoption is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And even when we were going into this, I was the more pragmatic. Gosh, can we afford this? And how am I going to make sure I provide for these kids and do that? But my wife felt an extremely strong call, like we're supposed to do this. And so I always was supportive of that, trusted her, trusted that call, but I could have never imagined how much love you experience in that process. In other words, those of us that have, and I have 2 biological kids, and I tell people all the time, there's absolutely no difference in terms of the love that you have for your kids, whether they're adopted or whether they're biological. And I think that, I don't know that you can really grasp that unless you go through the adoption process. And when we did that, Watson is, he's my son. There's just absolutely no difference, in that relationship. So that was a big thing, because I look at that as my faith being foundational to everything. I look at that as such a gift from God, and how he does that. And even there's a lot to that message for all of us, in kind of what he offers us, what God offers us as that gift, as a part of the bigger family. So he's there, and there's so many things that flow from that love and that relationships. He's such a sweet, kind-hearted kid. He's a big kid. We don't know how big he's going to be, but he's already 6'4", and at 15 years old. So he's definitely been blessed with a little better physique than I have. I'll tell you that. So, but yeah, sweet-hearted kid that loves people and has just completed our family for sure. So
we're talking to Todd Gongwer. In 2010, he writes a book, Lead, ... for God's sake. The late, great Lou Holtz says, "This is a book I could not put down. Every parent, coach, manager, and leader should read it. I wish I had read it 30 years ago." In a couple of paragraphs, what's the story of the book?
So it's a parable. So it is fiction. It's a story of a coach that has basically been to the top and is kind of starting over a little bit and is really struggling, quote unquote, sustaining that level of success that his expectations have set for him now. And so he goes through, I think or experiences a lot of things that most coaches experience in terms of a high level competitiveness, high expectations, and, the challenge of, man, why are we not getting it? And so it's a story of his battle with how to move the players, how to motivate them, how to help them to see the importance of, hard work and dedication and commitment and all these components of leadership that you should be learning in the sports world. When the reality is, he gets so focused on their struggles and their shortcomings that he really kind of misses the importance of his own heart and where his own heart is in this journey and how he's leading and what he's actually exemplifying to these kids along the way. And so it's a story of that journey. He has interactions with his wife and his family. He has interactions with a very, very successful business leader that parallels a lot of these things that he's going through to the business world. And so it's something that, what the feedback that I continue to get is a story about relationships, struggle, purpose, leadership, the things that all of us face in life as we move, in whatever we're doing.
We're talking to Todd Gongwer. I quote him, "This book is my calling." We're going to ask him about that when we come back. And I'm Jack Krasula, and this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR. Welcome back to Anything is Possible. I'm Jack Krasula. We're with Todd Gongwer. 2010, he wrote, "Lead for God's sake." I quote you, "This book is my calling." Why so, Todd?
Well, I think it goes back to, you got to look back 20 some years. And I think that's a lot of us in life when we reach a certain point, when we're going through it. And when we're going through normal things of life or challenges or whatever, we often don't realize what what's actually happening and how our current experiences are shaping or feeding what we're going to be doing and kind of pieces to the puzzle, so to speak. And so for me, I really never had I didn't ever dream of writing a book. I didn't really ever dream of, doing a lot of what I do today in terms of working with, other sports teams and businesses and things, and especially a lot of high-profile leaders that I work with. Really never had that as a dream. I mentioned the coaching experiences that I had, and then I had these business experiences, a little bit higher level, from 2004 to 2009. And about 3 years prior to writing this book, I just felt like I was supposed to write this book. But the season wasn't right yet. And I had really had to do my own wrestling, coming to grips with my own purpose and recognizing, hey, Todd, motives are everything in this life. They're so important. And we have a tremendous capacity to deceive ourselves. And so for me, up until, in my 20s and in early 30s, especially, I came to I had some moments where I recognized that I had been deceiving myself. I could give you all the right reasons that I was pursuing the things I was pursuing, but the reality is, way more of those reasons were hidden deeper in my own insecurities and my own desire for my own success, or to prove myself worth, or to, face, to the fear of failure, just different fears and treasures that I was actually pursuing, more so than I probably was, communicating to others or even recognizing in my own life. And so when I felt this call this time in my life, because I've been through kind of a shift in my thinking on this, I feel like God had really opened my eyes to the true purpose a little more clearly. And so when I felt this call, the season has to be right, because I can't do this at the expense of all the most important things. And leading up to the season in 2009, where I did, it's time to write this thing. And I remember for weeks and weeks I struggled because I was just trying to write a normal leadership book. And, I thought, okay, here's, step 1, step 2, step 3. This is how you transform a culture. And nothing seemed to flow right. And I remember specifically after some weeks just really praying about it and feeling like God was saying, hey, start over with a short story. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how to write fiction. I don't really read fiction. I read hundreds and hundreds of leadership books, but never really fiction. And so I'm thinking, well, okay, I'll try to write this thing, and maybe a story that's a chapter or two long, and then we'll see where it goes. And honestly, Jack, I had no idea where the story was going to go. I had no idea who these characters were. I just started, in a scene that I was most comfortable with. I just said, lead for God's sake, said Coach Rocker, as he, and this locker room scene unfolded. And from that point on, every time I sat down, I feel like it just poured out of my heart in a really divine way. And so as it came out, me being from a small town, a small college basketball assistant coach, family business, but a small, there was, hey, who's going to ever read this book? Nobody ever will. But as the story came out like it did, I honestly could tell that it was much, much bigger than me. And so I knew that, I just knew that God was going to do something really cool with it. And as it started to kind of take on a life of its own, once I had written it and had gotten it out into the hands of different people, people would read it, people would read the manuscript, and then they would say, hey, you got to give it to this person. And then because I self-published it at first, and then it was later picked up by a major publisher. But even through that process, as it got in the hands of people like, you read the Lou Holtz quote, as it got in the hands of Urban Meyer and Dabo Sweeney and Tony Bennett and just a lot of, really big name coaches around the country, Bob Stoops, Jim Tressel, these guys all started talking about it more and more. And it just took on a life of its own. And I knew, as that was taking place, especially, it was just confirmation that this book is way bigger than Todd. I couldn't have orchestrated this on my own. So I need to be very serious in stewarding the gift that God's given me. And I think we all have to do that. Because we've all been given a gift. We've all been, no matter what platform, no matter what it is, there's always that's ours to steward. And so this, I could tell, was, very clearly a gift that I've been given to steward. And God, this is a big part of your call. Don't screw it up. Is kind of the recurring theme that I'd play over in my mind, because I felt like it was having such a deep impact. I just, the stories over the years of people calling me or to people emailing me saying, I just 4:00 in the morning, I couldn't put it down and I just finished it and you changed my life, my marriage, I know that those things, when I hear those things, those are way beyond me. I don't have the ability to do that in somebody's life, but I know who does. And so from that standpoint, that's a big part of the call.
We're talking to Todd Gongwer. Todd, I quote you, "I write this book to first help you recognize your primary purpose, your true reason for existence." Todd, how do I do that?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things that I think we in kind of our modern society today tend to focus on our gifts, our passions, and our opportunities as, kind of the core foundation of purpose. And so we're always, you see all these different illustrations and all these different people say, hey, find your passion, that's your purpose, or this is your, and again, it was, I'll go all the way back to 2003, where I really felt like God opened my eyes to something different, and kind of this whole, hey, for something to really be its best, it has to ultimately serve the purpose for which it was created. When you start there, when you understand that's foundational, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. Every single day that I get out of bed, every single day that I walk out of my house, I can know that I'm serving my purpose if I stay focused on who are the people God's putting in my life. They're there for a reason. That is purpose. And so you could probably tell I get passionate about that one, because I think we miss it. We try to say it's about the things that we can do or the opportunities. And I'm so passionate because I can play the guitar really well, or I'm passionate about sports. Well, those things are fine, but those are secondary. They are not your primary purpose. And your primary purpose is always going to be about those relationships. So
we're talking to Todd Gongwer, and I'm Jack Krasula, and this is Anything is Possible on 760 WJR.
You've been listening to your inspirational fireside chat, Anything is Possible, for nearly 20 years.
This is Anything is Possible, and I'm Jack Krasula.
But what has Jack been up to lately? Search @AIP Speaker Series and find out. Jack has interviewed thousands of historical voices, some of whom have offered him their philosophy of life, like Tom Izzo.
And Tom writes, "Work hard, persistence always wins out, discipline is the highest form of love. Stay humble."
The great Ernie Harwell.
"My aim is to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God."
And the voices of our generation.
"I am reassured continuously that His unfathomable love and mercy are the greatest gifts of my life and my constant source of strength, reassurance, and guidance. His Holiness, Pope Francis."
@AIP Speaker Series is the YouTube channel where all of these jewels can be heard, including some of Anything is Possible's greatest guests.
And we're with Mitch Albom.
The Little Liar is really a book about truth and lies and the price we pay when we lie.
This is Anything is Possible, and with Tom Watson.
My father loved to play with the pros at the club. Developed a very quick friendship with Stan and played some golf with him. And then he would ask me to play golf with him and Stan.
Our guest this week was born with a rare disorder characterized by the absence of arms and legs. His name, Nick Vujicic.
Something that every human being actually deals with, Jack. It's the choice of continuing to believe or giving up.
And recordings of the AIP Speaker Series events at St. John's Resort. Go to YouTube and search @AIP Speaker Series. It's free. And remember,
Anything is possible.
Spohom. I'm Jack Krasula. This is Anything is Possible. We're talking to Todd Gongwer. If you want to learn more, www.leadforgodsake.com. Todd, let's be honest. It sounds very good, surrender to Jesus and do what He wants. But you don't understand. I live in a dog-eat-dog world. The company I work for, it's tough. I'd get chewed to pieces if I tried to act like you tell me to act. What do you say to that person?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I will tell you, Jack, I mean, even today, I will tell you the interesting part of my journey, for about 10, 11 years, I was doing nothing but traveling back around the country. In the last 5 years, I've actually been brought back in, and I still work with companies and these sports teams and things, but I also serve as an executive for a public company right now. And so I'm asked that question a lot, and I deal with that question both inside the company that I serve with, but also other companies, other things. And so it very simply is first and foremost, if you study those principles, if you really, and there are all kinds of books written about it, but there was Jesus and Paul, any of the writing in the scripture, they're going to talk about commitment, humility, selflessness, but there's also excellence. There's also again, the parable of the talents. I've given you this to steward. What'd you do with it? Were you your best? And so when you get into things and you actually study the leadership principles, let's say, of Jesus, you understand that these work. These work very well, and so it doesn't mean that everything goes perfect, and it doesn't mean it's the only way, because there are certainly people out there that choose, that would say, hey, this humility thing, you can't be humble in the world, and like there's certainly people that don't and can be, quote unquote, can achieve success other ways. But I would tell you that you may find success in those other ways, but you're not going to find the level of peace that you'll find in doing it the right way, and making sure that you're caring for people and that you love the people that you work with, and you're still pursuing your best and doing work at a level of excellence that people see that you're competent. I always tell people, the most powerful thing we model, or the most powerful form of influence, is what we model. The most important thing you can model is love. That'll give you the most powerful influence in your organization. I don't care what you're in. When you learn to love people, and this isn't I didn't say love. Love is a choice. So love is when I don't have to like you because we may not get along, but you know what? I'm gonna still treat you right, and I'm gonna still be there for you. I'm gonna still forgive you unconditionally. Those are things that can be incredibly powerful form of influence, no matter what job you have. And then I always tell them the second most powerful thing you can model is competence. Be good at your job. There was a reason that the song, Gatorade did the song years ago about Michael Jordan. I want to be like Mike. Nobody wants to be like, nobody would have wanted to be like Mike if he wasn't any good at what he did. He was good. And so be good at what you do, but love people along the way. It's hard, but on the other hand, man, it can be so rewarding and life-giving to not only your own walk and journey, but to the people around you. And people are hurting right now. People are fighting. People are, people have so many things that are polarizing our society out there today. And, we all have our belief systems, and we all, believe this way or that way. But the one thing that I think, social media is just destroying, and it's, work of the enemy, and it's this lie that we can't disagree and still love each other. We can't disagree and still work together, and it's too bad. But that's the kind of principles that I lead with, and that I always encourage the leaders that I work with all the time to lead with, because again, in the end, at some point in your life, you're going to look back, and this thing called legacy is real. And I actually turn 56 tomorrow, and every year that goes by, I get a little bit more, call it sentimental or whatever, but looking back and going, what's the past that I'm leaving behind me? Did the people that I worked with, that God put in my path, did they know that I loved them, that I wanted the best for them, that I was encouraging them to be their best, holding them to a high standard, all those things. So I think it can definitely work as a challenge, no doubt, in the world that we live in. But man, life is too short to not function that way because of the peace that will follow when you do.
We're talking to Todd Gongwer. One more question. I quote another quote. Every challenge, struggle, or disappointment in life has a transformative purpose for the leader who is willing to face and embrace it. Really, Todd?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and that's so hard to remember for all of us, including myself. But I think if you study history, if you study the great, achievers over time, most of them will have that adversity that they went through at some point. And it's always struck me over the years at how many of them will talk about that moment of adversity, that trial, that struggle, and they'll refer to it as, I went through this, but because I went through it, I was able to achieve this. Because of what I learned, because of how it strengthened me here. It developed my perseverance. It developed my faith. All the things that it did. Because of that adversity, I was able to achieve this. Not in spite of. And I always talk to young people about this. I said, you rarely hear them say, in spite of this adversity, I was able to accomplish this. They usually say, because I went through this, it catapulted me into this. And it was those situations where people learn to open their heart, open their eyes in terms of the situation that they're going through, and to really recognize, okay, what am I supposed to learn through this? What's God trying to teach me through this to prepare me for the future? And, again, the older you get in life, I think the more you can look back and go, I don't know why I went through this. Boy, it was horrible while I was going through it, but I'm so glad I experienced that because it made me so much better. It gave me so much more empathy toward this person going through this or whatever. There's all kinds of things. So, yes, I absolutely believe there's purpose in our pain.
Todd Gongwer, the Indiana Hoosiers had a phenomenal football season this past season, and you are a phenomenal Indiana Hoosier. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, Jack. I appreciate the kind words, and please keep up the great work you are doing too, my friend. I love it.
Please join us next week. Until then, I'm Jack Krasula. Thanks for listening. Make it a great week because with God, anything is possible. Spall.
Believe